History almost shifted the night Voldemort fell. Another timeline waited at the edge of a single heartbeat. The one where Sirius Black reached Godric's Hollow first and carried baby Harry Potter from the ruins, while Lily's magic still burned in the air. One choice, a different wizarding world. Tonight, traveler, we step into the Marauder's alternate timeline that nearly became legend. Greetings, traveler. You've found your way back to the Silver Quill Corner. I am Grayfen, the Story Keeper. Long ago, when I was bound to an ancient wizarding family, I learned that stories carry a magic older than time itself. Here, we drift through wizarding tales, enchanted histories, and the deeper lore of the Harry Potter world, drawn from every shadowed corner of magic. If the murmur of quills and the echo of old corridors bring you peace, press like, subscribe. The bells have been heard across the world tonight. Tell me, Keeper, from what city, realm, or corner of the world are you listening? I'd love to know how far these stories have reached. The smoke drifting above Godric's Hollow still carried the echo of a curse, an aftertaste of green fire clinging to the autumn air. Sirius Black didn't land so much as crash, boots skidding in the gravel, the motorbike rattling like a creature in pain. Slung himself through the gate and charged into the ruined cottage, every footfall hitting the ground like a heartbeat out of rhythm. The front door hung sideways, scorched black, hinges twisted by a spell too violent to name. Inside, the air throbbed with the fading pulse of Lily's final enchantment. Sirius staggered into the sitting room, and everything inside him broke. James lay crumpled near the stairs, the boy he'd grown up with, the brother he'd chosen. His glasses shattered, his last act still etched into the angle of his body. Courage caught mid-stride, then a cry, thin as a thread and bright with life, broke the silence. It seized Sirius by the soul, yanking him up the stairs before he could think or breathe. Driven by instinct and terror, he surged toward the sound. The air pressed against his chest. A quivering veil of magic stretched perilously thin. Lily's protection had not yielded. Even as it died, her enchantment clung to the nursery like stubborn winter frost, its golden filaments trembling in the dim light. The crib, shattered and half-consumed, glowed at its edges with the last delicate threads of her sacrifice etched into splintered wood. And in the center of that sacred wreckage, Harry, dust in his black hair, ash streaked across his cheeks, a faint red glow pulsing from his scar, the last ember of a fallen phoenix. Sirius lifted him. The scar started to flare. Magic snapped against his skin, sharp enough to make him gasp. Lily's protection, fierce even in its dying moments. But under that burning shield, something shifted, as though the spell itself knew him, James's chosen brother, and unraveled just enough to let him step inside without harm. His gaze dropped, and there it was. A single photograph, untouched amid the ruin. James balancing baby Harry on a toy broom, Lily laughing in the background, joy caught forever in a moment the world would never get back. Sirius pressed the photo to his chest, breath breaking, then bent over Harry, shielding the tiny body with every instinct he had. Outside, great wings beat against the air, the universe stirring, destiny circling overhead. But Sirius did not pause. He wrapped his cloak around Harry and carried him down the ruined stairs. Cold night air sliced like glass as Sirius lifted Harry onto the bike, folding the tiny bundle beneath his jacket. Behind them, the earth seemed to quake. Hagrid descended in a whirlwind of wings and roaring air, his breath caught in his throat at the sight, Sirius Black standing with baby Harry in his arms. But one look into Sirius's eyes said everything. A vow forged in fire and loss. There was no force in the wizarding world, no law, no plea that could have stopped him. He'd chased trouble across half the country on this bike, laughing, reckless, fearless, but never once had he touched the handlebars with hands that shook this terribly. The key turned. The motorbike didn't merely start. It stirred, awakening with a growl that rolled through the metal like memory itself. tugging forward like a dog who recognized its master's grief. It wasn't just a bike. It was the last relic of the Marauder's brilliance. 4 boys who once believed the sky could never outrun them. James had carved the stabilizing runes with a stolen goblin chisel. Sirius had embedded an illegally ambitious sky boost charm. Peter had added a silencing spell that never worked. And Remus, steady, methodical Remus, had enchanted the exhaust so it would glide through clouds smoother. Sirius used to laugh at that. The sky swallowed them. Wind tore past his face, stinging grief out of his lungs. He tightened his hold, one hand on the handlebars, one wrapped around Harry. Smoke clung to the baby's hair. James's laugh, Lily's smile, a cottage painted in light, now ash, gone in minutes. His heart cracked, and through the fracture, something ancient settled. Wizard vows weren't spoken, not the old ones. They were forged by intention. Sirius's intention locked into the night like iron cooling. Above them, the night widened. The dog star burned brighter than it had in a century, a silent witness to a godfather carrying the last Potter into an uncertain world. Grimmauld Place surfaced from the shadows with a low, ancient groan, wards shifting, iron bones rearranging themselves around a new heartbeat. Sirius landed the motorbike hard, skidding across the cobblestones. The front door swung open before his boots touched the ground. Not by charm, by instinct, by family magic recognizing one of its own in agony. Remus appeared in the hallway, drawn by a thread that had bound the Marauders together long before war ever touched them. Just one look, Harry in Sirius's arms, and the night carved itself into both men forever. Then, the house reacted. The wards didn't merely hum, they shivered, rippling down the spine of the corridor like a creature startled awake. A surge of blue-white runes hissed across the walls, blooming in patterns older than Wandlore. The ancestral enchantments, the ones meant to reject anything tainted, impure, or unworthy, flared like judges' eyes. They scanned the child, measured lineage, measured magic, measured destiny, and for the first time in over a century, they softened. Creature crept forward, trembling, but not with anger, with awe. A Potter child inside the House of Black, the baby who shattered Voldemort's reign by simply surviving. The elf whispered a string of old black family rites, words meant to greet heirs, not intruders. The wards eased, stone settled, then the bell rang. One chime, heavy, decisive, echoing into the marrow of the house. Dumbledore stepped inside, robes dusted with the ash of Godric's hollow. Hogwarts-grade magic clung to him like a second cloak, and Grimmauld Place bristled, old enchantments tightening as if sniffing out a rival. Candles along the walls straightened their flames, thin vertical lines marking his passage, recognizing power, challenging it. Dumbledore's gaze fell on Sirius holding Harry, on Remus standing at his side, on the ruin woven through the night. He saw Lily's magic still wrapped around the child, warm as breath on glass, unyielding even in death. Then came the words no one wanted to hear. Lily's protection was ancient magic. It bound itself through blood, through Petunia's lineage, and it could only survive if Harry lived under her roof, not loved, not cherished, just housed, just enough time to anchor the spell. Sirius's face cracked. He knew Petunia. He knew Vernon. He'd seen the cold gleam in Petunia's eyes the day Lily left for Hogwarts, a jealousy sharp enough to cut bone. Remus stepped forward, calm, steady, carrying the weight of every promise James and Lily ever trusted him with. James and Lily named Sirius guardian. Their will mattered. Their choice mattered. Love mattered. Dumbledore faltered, just slightly, but enough. And the compromise was born. Harry would live here, inside Sirius's vow, inside Remus's quiet, unshakable care, inside a house steeped in darkness, now bending toward light. But once a year, only once, Harry must return to Privet Drive, long enough to keep Voldemort's remnants at bay. Blood magic, choice magic, protection magic older than Hogwarts itself, bound together in a fragile, trembling pact. Harry slept through it all, tiny hand curled in Sirius's cloak as though making his own choice. Sirius nodded once, sharp, final, a vow sharpening into reality. The future shifted. Harry would grow in Grimmauld Place, not as a prisoner of black tradition, but as the child of a new legacy forged by defiance and love. He would rise under Sirius's fierce loyalty and Remus's gentle, brilliant guidance. The last marauders would raise the last Potter, and once each year, as the leaves turned, as the world quieted, as old magic demanded its due, they would walk toward the only door Sirius Black ever truly feared. Privet Drive. Harry was just over a year old when Sirius carried him up the neat brick path of number 4, Privet Drive, a house so determinedly ordinary it seemed designed to keep magic at the curb. Windows gleamed with polished judgment, hedges stood trimmed into submission. Harry stirred. Children sense old magic before they understand it, and something ancient waited behind that door, blood-bound, grief-forged, humming beneath the floorboards. Remus walked beside them, wand hidden beneath his sleeve, senses sharpened. He felt it too, a dormant ward stirring the moment Harry crossed into its reach, Lily's sacrifice echoing through the years. The door opened. Petunia Dursley stared at them. Her gaze hit Sirius first, resentment she never managed to bury, then Remus, wariness flickering in his eyes, reading the years Vernon had carved into her, and finally the child. Lily's green eyes set into James's face. Her breath stuttered. Behind her, Vernon stood in the hallway, red-faced and braced, as if outrage alone could keep his world tidy. He didn't speak. His disapproval was a presence of its own. Petunia straightened beneath it, habit, not conviction. But memories slipped through her guard anyway. The letter to Dumbledore, the refusal that bruised her pride, the distance from Lily, the jealousy that hardened her like frost. For one heartbeat, the past flickered in her expression. She stepped aside. Vernon blanched, horror etched across him. Magic didn't frighten him. It contradicted him. He lingered at the sitting-room doorway, a wall of denial held together by stubbornness alone. But the moment wasn't his to shape. Sirius and Remus crossed the threshold. A ward needs only one truth: acceptance. Even the faintest spark of it. The air drew tight the instant Harry entered. Lights quivered, frames shuddered. A shimmer swept the room, invisible to Muggle eyes, unmistakable to anyone raised among old enchantments. Harry whimpered. His scar flickered a soft, defensive red. Petunia gasped as warmth bloomed across her chest. Lily's sacrifice threading itself through their shared blood, binding anew despite years of silence and bitterness. Vernon stumbled back, color draining. He couldn't name what brushed past him, only that it was older than reason and profoundly uninterested in him. Beneath Privet Drive, magic older than wand lore, older than Hogwarts's foundations, locked into place. Remus felt it hum through his bones. Sirius felt the vow he'd made under the night sky blaze like a second heartbeat. Two protections aligned around the same child. A final pulse rolled through the house, firm, clean, immutable. Harry relaxed, settling as if the world had shifted into its proper shape. Petunia stood frozen, not softened, but shaken open. For the first time since childhood, magic touched her without wounding. Not a punishment, a reminder. Sirius turned without a word. Remus followed. Their visit had lasted less than 2 minutes. That was all the ward required. The smallest trembling acceptance from Lily's last remaining blood. Outside, Remus exhaled. That was old magic. Sirius held Harry closer. The vow in his chest glowed like a hidden coal. We return only when we must. They disapparated, leaving Privet Drive spotless, silent, unchanged. But beneath its prim foundations, the ward burned like a buried lantern, a protection born from Lily's love, anchored through the sister shaped by envy and grief, enduring despite the man who taught her to fear the world she once longed to enter. Grimmauld Place shifted the moment Sirius carried Harry across its threshold. Stone aligning, wards tightening, lamps flaring as if a long-dormant hearth had felt a spark. The house, accustomed to loss and silence, sensed something it had not felt in decades. A thin, stubborn kind of hope. Harry's childhood unfolded inside walls once carved by grief, but slowly reshaped by devotion. Sirius carried a kind of wild devotion that seemed to ignite the house around him, while Remus's quiet stability wove itself through the walls like a settling charm. And Creature, ever muttering, ever present, kept to the doorways, guarding the child with a reverence he would never admit aloud, as if guarding a spark he had once seen in Regulus and never expected to see again. History would never record these years, but magic would, especially Hogwarts, the castle that would one day soften its stones as he walked, remembering the kind of childhood built on choice, loyalty, and warmth in unlikely places. Harry took his first steps in the Black family library. Sirius attempted poise while holding out both hands, but toppled with the child into a heap of atlases and dust. Remus's rare, quiet laughter filled the room, and the house seemed to breathe easier for it. Harry's delight radiated like a charm through the portraits, even as they scowled in disapproval. Years later, those same steps would echo through Hogwarts's floorboards, the castle remembering where he learned to walk. Harry's first reach for the world came quietly, in a pocket of afternoon light that slipped through Grimmauld grim curtains. Remus steadied him with the soft precision of someone who had spent a lifetime navigating fragile things, mapping slow circles in the air with a quill dipped in star ink. Sirius burst in moments later with a plate of biscuits, still warm, yet undeniably bought from a shop, wearing the triumphant grin of someone determined to make joy happen, even if he had to cheat. Harry's joy filled the room, and the quiet magic that always hovered around Sirius stirred, a soft echo of something ancient, protective, and loyal as the star that bore his name. Harry's presence rewrote the house in small, unmistakable ways. Shadows softened when he was upset. Floorboards brightened when he giggled. Old black wards stirred protectively whenever unease rippled through him. When a plate shuddered into the air, Sirius lurched toward it in pure, protective alarm. Remus lowered it with practiced ease, already understanding the gentle brilliance waking in Harry's magic. Magic grew with him, responding to joy and fear with the same instinctive immediacy as breath, a constant presence shaping his childhood in ways he didn't yet understand. Night after night, Grimmauld Place filled with stories drawn from the old years, some bright with youthful rebellion, others marked by the shadows that followed. Sirius carried the spark of those reckless days. Remus carried the weight of what they had cost, and in the space between their recollections, Harry inherited a sense of loyalty that would one day define him. The house listened too, its corners softening as if the stories seeping through its walls were mending fractures time had left behind. Birthdays became their own kind of ritual. Sirius filled the rooms with overzealous charm work that rattled cabinets. Remus followed behind with patient counterspells. Creature prepared the cake each year, grumbling but leaving constellations in the icing as if marking the child into the family sky. On Harry's 5th birthday, spirals of spelllight curled into a stag, a wolf, and a bright, eager dog circling him in radiant loops. His laughter lit the hall, and for the briefest breath of time, the glow of those shapes made the three standing beneath them resemble the ones they had once been, almost reunited, almost repaired, almost enough to imagine wholeness again. The house quieted whenever Harry studied the faces in his photographs. Sirius felt the old grief rise sharp. They offered Harry not the weight of history, but the truth of two people defined by love, strength, and brilliance. That truth settled into him early, forming the foundation of who he became. By 6, he traced ward lines with uncanny precision, a talent Sirius insisted came from black blood, while Remus simply recognized it for what it was, early brilliance. By 8, he learned to steady Sirius's hands on nights when old guilt clawed its way up from memory. He didn't know the word for it, only that holding on helped. By 9, the ancient black portraits tilted subtly toward him, not for the family name, but for the light he brought into the house. By 10, the very magic of Hogwarts seemed to stir at a distance, sensing the shape of someone who would not enter its halls quietly. By 10, when the Hogwarts letter arrived, delivered by a tawny owl slamming into the kitchen window as Sirius wrestled with a misfiring kettle, the entire house vibrated with something older than excitement, pride, sharpened by survival. Kreacher fetched Harry's cloak without being asked. Remus released a breath that had lived in his chest for 11 years. Sirius held the envelope too tightly, grief and pride knotted together. And Harry, raised by wild magic and unyielding love, lifted the letter with the quiet certainty of a child carrying more than his own hopes. Hogwarts was calling, and the castle would feel him coming, because a boy raised in a house of wards, devotion, and defiant loyalty does not step into the world quietly. He arrives like the whisper of a legacy returning home.